Hello, everyone. Welcome to Lawyer Issues, Lawyer Interviews. I am your host, Jeff Dillon. And with us today, we have Beth Colombo. Beth, welcome. Hello.
Thank you, Jeff. Hello, how are you?
I'm doing great. This is very exciting. This is my first time hosting this. You're my first guest. To give my intro of you, Beth Colombo is not only a corporate counsel for Vendavo Incorporated, but you are also a professor or part-time professor of business law at Southern New Hampshire University. Is that right?
That is.
You are also, you are an author. You write articles, you do other things. My first question for you is, are you sure you're one person, or how do you find the time for all of these endeavors?
It's a really good question. I first of all have a good priority system. So in other words, Vendavo is the prime. That's my full-time job. That's my commitment. And then I make sure that I can, before I commit to these other things, I make sure that I can truly, fully commit to them, because there's nothing worse than the people who sign up to do all of these types of things, but then aren't really doing them. And the way that I balance it and assess, do I have time for this, is great example is the teaching that I can get done on nights and weekends. I also learned that when I first started, I think I taught 3 or 4 terms back to back to back. And I learned that's a bad idea, because I start to really have no time for anything else, because obviously I want family time and all of that good stuff too. So saying no sometimes, no to a term, that helps a lot. The author thing is nice because I can just slot it in when I have time. My editors are wonderful about letting me do that. So I think it's really just saying no when necessary, and also just being disciplined with time. So I make sure that Vendavo has my full attention for most of the time. And then I make sure if I need to be grading or doing whatever, SNHU entails during a term, that I have that time allotted and I'm committed to that. So yeah, it's a lot of, like, I hate to say time discipline because I sound like, ooh, aren't I great? And no, I'm not perfect, but it is a lot of being disciplined with my schedule and my time.
Oh, you are great.
But thanks, Jeff. I love this interview.
That's impressive. No, I mean, good to know. It's good to have a well-rounded life, it sounds like. So you have a life outside of law. I want to start, and you're an author. You had this article published. Are you generally an author of articles, or do you write like books, children's books, comics? Like what are you an author of?
Yeah, no, I don't write books. I've been thinking about writing a book. We'll see if that actually happens. But so far, what I've been published is my articles have been published. So things like Association of Corporate Counsels, ACC docket, and Corporate Counsel Business Journals. They just published what you saw, that interview, and the Contracting Excellence Journal, which is by World Commerce and Contracting. So those kind of publications will publish my articles. So I'm an article gal as of now.
And are you writing like, updates in the law, or just about yourself?
Usually it's a lot of it is focused on career. So for example, for Association of Corporate Counsel, I did for International Women's Day, I did a article for women new to in-house, and it was tips and tricks and things and it really applied to men as well. But if you're new to in-house and you are kind of like, what would be some good things I should be doing? I'm new to this, that kind of thing. So it's a lot of that kind of, I just wrote one on promotions and raises and asking for those and how to make it less awkward than it sometimes feels. So it's a lot of that kind of career focus as of right now. But then I will sometimes do the more meaty stuff, like for World Commerce and Contracting. I wrote one recently on the do's and don'ts of contract drafting and negotiation. So sometimes I get a little bit more into the deeper legal issues.
Got it. Yeah. I'll spare everyone from asking more about what was that? Drafting
Yeah,
contracts and
I'm one of those weirdos who gets excited about contracts, but I also understand not to like go on and on about them because I'm probably unique in that. So I won't share my do's and don'ts of contract drafting and negotiation here.
yeah, well, maybe you could read an excerpt for us right now.
Of limitation of liability. No, if you think of it as negotiating deals, sometimes people get more excited because they think of like the TV show Suits.
Mhm.
But I won't talk about limitation of liability here. I'll spare everyone.
Well, maybe we'll have a separate segment for if people need to listen to something if they have trouble sleeping.
Yes.
No offense to your, no, it's okay.
No, I look, it's fine. And you know what I always think is like, if I'm interested in that and other people aren't, doesn't that make me really like marketable if I ever need a job? Thank God I'm happy now, but you gotta always plan.
Absolutely. No. And hey, look, I'm a corporate lawyer myself. It is always good to talk to non-litigation people sometimes who can geek out about the practice outside of the courtroom. So
That's right.
Backing up a bit. So we want to know more about you. I believe in your latest article, which anyone can look up. What was the name of it again?
The winding route to where I am now, that one, the CCBJ one that they actually interviewed me and wrote that article in conjunction with me, which was kind of exciting.
Well, maybe we could go along that winding route as we talk now. You I found very interesting sounding like you started off in the entertainment world. Please elaborate on that.
Yeah, it's probably not, some of us I think have that background as lawyers, but it's not the norm, I would say. So happy to. I will make this first part quick because it's going way back in time. I found a love of acting and being involved in theater, and as far back as high school. Came from a family that lived right outside New York City, so my grandfather, wonderful man, would take us to Broadway plays, and I grew up in that world, and then I found I loved it in high school. So when I went to the University of Notre Dame, sorry, but we have to do this because this is what we do, go Irish. I majored in film, television, and theater, focusing really on the theater and television part. And I loved it. I was doing some acting, but I was also stage managing. I really enjoyed that. And it was great. But then I got to my senior year and I went, ooh, I don't know if I have what it takes to handle the instability of what that life might look like outside of college. And so I was trying to be honest with myself because it really is a passion and a love of mine. And thankfully I had this phenomenal person. She was my professor at Notre Dame called Siri, and Siri was really supposed to, in my senior year, help me apply for a master's in theater or go audition or whatever the case, but she could see that her student was struggling with the idea of that path, and I wasn't really thinking it would fit me. And so she actually really helped me decide on law school, and in addition to obviously family. And so I said, let's go with law. And literally the way I came to law was, it was things like, I read a case that one time in that class and it was interesting. I mean, that was it. I didn't know, my uncle was an attorney, but I didn't really know much about it. So went to law school. And I'm happy to keep going to where I got today, but I don't want to just ramble. That's the piece of theater to law, which is not really that exciting, but that's how.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like you had a good teacher. I mean, some people would say if your drama teacher says, hey, have you considered law school? Then the drama wasn't going so well.
I swear I was good. I actually do want to hear something fun. I won the Catherine Hicks Award from the faculty of my department when I graduated. The reason it's fun is Catherine Hicks played the mom on Seventh Heaven, which I always thought was kind of exciting. I feel like that's not exciting to everyone, but I felt like that was exciting.
Yeah, congrats. Yeah. So were you doing like what kind of old school like musicals or like what is it, Shakespeare kind of things, or like what is that, or TV acting? I don't know.
My big one was stage managing The Glass Menagerie, so obviously a classic play for Siri actually, and then we had some other. I stage managed for my friend Bill Christopher Durang play, which if you know Christopher Durang, those are a little bit kind of funnier, not classics but wonderful. So I stage managed Betty summer vacation for him. And then there was some acting and somebody wrote a play that, those kind of things at school. And I really found my home in stage management as I was there longer. But yeah, it was kind of a mix of everything. I loved Shakespeare. And what's weird? I don't think I ever worked on a Shakespeare show. I went to them when my friends were involved, but yeah, it was great. It was a mix. Notre Dame does a really good job of, I promise I don't work for them, but they do a really great job of mixing it up. So it was a bunch of different stuff and it was great.
Absolutely. It sounds like, really cool experience, but then going to law school, it sounds like you went straight through from undergrad to law school.
I took a year in between undergrad and law school, which I think was good. At the time, of course, I was panicking because I was very much a good girl. You have to do what you're supposed to do, and I was panicking a little bit, but it ended up being good. I was trying to figure out where I wanted to go to school. I ended up for part of that, I ended up waitressing, which I feel like everyone should do at some time in their life. And so it ended up being good. So yeah, I took that year and then I started law school.
I have a theory that I never was in the waiting industry or food and anything, but I have gotten mad at waiters plenty of times, and and feeling that. And I just think there's no better prep for dealing with clients than probably dealing with people who had a restaurant, because who else wants something so immediate and does not want to hear that about why it's taking a while. I just think I'm sure that maybe you already say this, but I feel like that's just like such a good experience for client management.
Oh yeah, I feel like everybody should, waiter or waitress, serve, whatever you want to call it, in your life, only because just what you're saying, you learn how to deal with the public and deal with them well. And you also meet interesting people. Like we had people that came into our lounge and, ate, drank often. They were regulars. And they literally gave me a Joe Namath book, because sad story of my life, I'm a lifelong New York Jets fan. And they literally gave me a beautiful dining room table for me to take to my law school apartment, because I was just about to leave, and they helped me load it into my car. So it's great because you learn how to interact with people. You learn how to deal with wonderful people like them. You learn how to deal with difficult people. I was always a good tipper, but you become an even crazier, better tipper, you realize, because the thing about it, I always say I loved it, but I also say it's really hard work. So it's a great experience. Yeah. Keeps you humble too.
I'm sure. So going back to getting into going to law school from being theater, now maybe people listening to this are considering going to law school. And we were saying earlier, you were like, I promise I'm interesting. I am not a political science major who went into law. And I feel like people think, oh, I need to be in a history or poli-sci or criminal, some kind of weird pre-law major. I would think, maybe because you're reading and writing a lot. Did you do a lot of reading and writing as a theater major, or did you show up in law school and be like, oh my God, I haven't done a textbook in since high school? What was that transition like?
Yeah, it was actually great. My high school was great too, Immaculate Heart Academy, giving them a shout out, and hopefully that's good for them and they're not embarrassed. I'm kidding. No, great school. Immaculate Heart Academy really prepared me exceptionally well, to the point that I started at Notre Dame, and when some people around me thought it was difficult, I was going this isn't as hard as I thought it would be, but it was because of the prep I had in high school. So that was great. And then as far as Notre Dame and prep for law school, the funny thing about theater is it's quite a demanding major, because I guess in a good theater program, you're researching roles, you're researching time periods, you're researching sets. You're the first person who taught me how to, so I'm going to give away my age, Microsoft Office Suite was kind of coming around and new when I was in high school. So I learned the basics of it then. I learned really how to meaningfully use Microsoft Word to my advantage in stage management class at Notre Dame. And I literally still use some of those lessons today, which is so weird to think about, but it's true. So weirdly, theater had a lot of lessons that I needed for my career now, which is kind of insane to think about, but true. It was also good for acting, meaning I never walked into a meeting with, let's say, the C-suite at a company and went oh, well, I did go oh, geez, there were those moments of angst. And then you go, you know what? can just fake it. I can look confident and I know my stuff. I just have to calm down. So it was also helpful for that kind of not owning a room in an obnoxious way. We've all known attorneys who do that, but owning a room in a healthy and positive way. Right. So yeah, it really was great. Now law school, because that was your actual question, was interesting because given my background with my really good high school and Notre Dame, I went into law school a little bit probably overly like kind of cocky, thinking I'm going to be like, this will be easy for people say law school's hard, whatever. And I started and went like, oh, okay, I get it now, because it is a very different way of learning. And one of the things I struggled with, I think a lot of us struggle with, is in most classes, not having any sense of how I was doing until we took that final at the end of that's an uncomfortable place for me. And I think most type A's to be in. So that was a struggle. But after the first year, and I was able to get into mock trial and moot court, and I also settled into how the learning works and all that, it was better. But I do think it's an adjustment for most, if not all people, for sure.
Of course. Yeah. No, and I liked hearing the how the acting helped with your current job too, because you're, instead of memorizing lines and preparing for a scene, you're studying what the issues are, I suppose, and then relaying that to the non-legal folks, or the I guess what is a better word for non-lawyers?
Internal clients, colleagues, lay people.
Lay people was what I was.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'm here for you.
The non, yeah. So going along this, as we are winding through your route to, it's a good theme for this. Why don't you tell us, how did you end up working in the corporate world, especially at a coveted in-house position? Because that is for many people the dream.
You're right that it's coveted and hard to get. So yeah, I started in litigation. My naive self back then thought that theater would translate to litigation. Yeah, I'll be great in a courtroom. I would love it. I'll be, female Jack McCoy from Law and Order. It'll be amazing. And I pretty quickly learned that, so I worked for a civil litigation law firm, and I pretty quickly learned that it's very different. And I always love when people say to me, oh, I always wanted to be a lawyer because I love to argue. I feel like lawyer issues had a meme about this recently, because I remember enjoying it, because I'm always like, I mostly don't argue in my job, but okay. So back to the winding.
Yeah, I think I've seen it's like, no, you don't want to argue. That just means you're an asshole.
Right. And I don't actually love to argue, which I think makes me a decent person in life. So I'll take it. But I back to the point of why I got off on this tangent, is because I didn't love the contentious nature of litigation. I didn't, it wasn't my comfort zone, let's say. And so it was great experience. It was good to find out what I don't like and what doesn't work for me. And I thought, geez, I wonder if I would like corporate law. My grandpa was in corporate. He was always really interesting to me. My mom had done a little bit. My dad was like in HR. I thought maybe this would work, but I had just been wrong, about liking litigation. So I wasn't totally sure. So I'm applying for all these jobs. And to the point you made of it being coveted, the whole thing is you don't get in-house jobs without in-house experience, which of course, then the question is, how does that even work? But that always seemed to be the case. So thankfully, I had a technology company take a chance on me in New Jersey, and I feel like I can name them. I don't know why I'm being cryptic about it. So Konica Minolta in New Jersey.
Oh, wait, yeah, let's write that down, actually. Yeah, how do you spell that?
Gave me an opportunity, and so that was my first in-house role. Really great place to start in-house, because I spent 7 years there, 6 years in their headquarters, and then a year remotely from where I am now. And they have a very diverse portfolio of offerings. I won't speak in detail on it because I'm sure that's their marketing department has that covered. They don't need me to do that, but really, really diverse work there. And that was a great place to learn and grow.
What kind of company were they?
They're so Konica Minolta at its core, and I don't speak for them, so you can go to their page for the legit information. But when I was there, their core had been multifunctional peripherals, so your copy, print, scan machines, and then they were getting into software and all of these other things, and they've gotten even more diverse since I left, because it's been a while since I was there. And so they have all kinds of things going on, and they had started to do some of that when I was there. So what a great place to learn, because it was just always changing. And we had hardware sales, we had software sales, all kinds of different leases, purchases, all kinds of things for me too.
And how many lawyers were you working with? You start off straight out of law school and you go into this company, and I'm assuming a printing machine company, like a kind of reminds me, it sounds like Dunder Mifflin in a way, but
no comment.
yeah. And I'm guessing they didn't have a giant team of lawyers, or am I wrong?
Not really, considering the size. So there were when I worked there were 5 of us when I started, and then we also had a Japanese liaison who was an attorney. So it wasn't huge. I was lucky that one of my fellow attorneys really took me under his wing and taught me, because law school doesn't teach us how to be in-house counsel. We learn how to.
No, of course not. Yeah.
They would say they teach us a different way to think, and we read a lot of case law, and that's fine. But I didn't learn how to redline contracts. I didn't learn how to be in-house counsel. I didn't learn any of that, as you know. So I had, thank God, had an attorney who really I learned a lot from, and I took a lot of the lessons that he taught me. But we were not a big department for the size of the company, which kind of was good, because I've never been afraid of hard work. And I think the more I did, the more I learned. So, it worked out. That was good. That was a good thing. But yeah, you're right. It wasn't a huge law department for the size of the company.
So you were only in-house. You've only ever worked at companies. Is that right?
I was at a small firm right out of law school, doing civil litigation. Thank God, because I found out that wasn't for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I did it just for fun, because the winding route, and I didn't say this in my other interview, I did do a short stint, but in sales for the New York Jets, which was super just fun, because why not?
The New York Jets, right?
New York Jets. I've been a lifelong fan. Like I said, everyone can feel sorry for me. That's fine. But yeah, loved them for years. And it was at some point in my career, I was looking for a legal job, and I went to their page because I'm a fan, and they had a sales job. And I thought, oh, that might be neat, and it was supposed to be like a 3 to 6 month contract job. It ended up, I think I was in like my eighth month. And then I was like, okay, I really do want to be a lawyer though. So let me pivot back to that. So I left, but it was really like fun and interesting. And it's one of those sexy jobs, that you tell
people. Sounds awesome.
It was kind of cool. So that I worked for that company, but not as a lawyer. So yeah, it's been the firm. And then I've worked for 3 companies in-house as an attorney.
I want to make sure I don't forget this, because you're a teacher.
Oh, that's right.
And as I'm not so recently out of law school, but you kind of feel like the enemy to me. It's like, how can you go to the dark side and be, the people who've tortured us? Like, what made you want to go and do that to yourself and to everyone else?
Yeah, that's right. One point of clarification is that not that I'm against teaching law school, but I do teach undergrads business law, which is quite interesting. But I am laughing at your question, because my dad said to me when I got the teaching role, oh, my professors are the ones I used to run away from, or something similar. And I chuckled at him. But I decided, it's a funny question. I decided that I realized that I really enjoyed when I was able to teach something to colleagues at work. Like, it seemed to really help them do their job better. And I felt the same way when people taught me throughout my career, and they still do. So I went I always have these ideas, like maybe I'd like corporate law. So this one was, maybe I'd want to teach. I never thought I'd really want to do it full time, and I still don't think that I would, but I thought maybe that'd be a neat thing. People are adjuncts. Let me see. Then I learned it's very difficult actually to get into. But SNHU hired me, and it's been great. It's been very interesting. And I try to be the professor that actually helps you and guides you and teaches you, versus just being your enemy. So, we don't talk to my students, because I hope that's true, but what if it's not? But yeah, it's been fulfilling. It's not about me, it's about the students. But when you get that note from a student thanking you and telling you why the class meant a lot, it's meaningful. And a lot of my students work, they have careers, they're now back in school. So it does like it's meaningful. And so that part is kind of nice. It's nice.
And this is undergrad, you said you're
Yeah,
teaching
isn't that
law.
crazy? Yeah, business law. Yeah.
These are all like Gen Z or even less type
Well,
kids,
so,
or
yeah, here's what's weird is sometimes that's right, yes, but because of the nature of SNHU being mostly online and being purposefully affordable and reasonable, and all of these kind of factors, SNHU actually has a lot of veterans, a lot of working people, people who have actually been in their careers a long time. I have so many students tell me, oh, I've been, X job at X company for 15 years, but now I want a promotion and they won't let me have a promotion unless I have a bachelor's. And so I'm in school.
okay.
Yeah. So it's kind of neat because you have a nice cross section of, the young people, but then also older people, experienced people, everybody in between. So that's been kind of neat. I've literally had like grandparents. I've had like 1 or 2 grandparents who are just like back in school.
And it's all online.
Yeah, they do. SNHU has a small group on campus, but obviously I teach online and most of it is online schooling. So that's also interesting because you're trying to get all of this across in an online manner. So I try to be creative in that regard.
What about you did we not get to? What's your secret thing? Or maybe you want to tell us about those tips for women, but also men, which is great. That's great. It applies to both, but like what's help, tell us a little bit about your insight there. Women in the corporate setting, winning over.
Yeah.
What's the secret?
I think, it's not, I'd like it to be a secret because it makes me more valuable, but it's not that much of a secret, and please read the article on Association of Corporate Counsels, ACC docket, and I actually did an update to the article this year, so there's more, but the bottom line, I think, is the things that you kind of know in your life. So be prepared, know your stuff, make sure that you're presenting yourself the way that you want to present yourself. I had a teacher in high school teach us that you don't want to sound like this at the end of every sentence because people think you're asking a question. And I think as women, sometimes we do that. I have done that in my life, not that bad, but you're uncomfortable in a situation and you do what I just did. So, I'm kind of constantly checking myself and just going, is this the person I want to present to this group? Because those C-suiters, those executives can be hard on you, and it's, and I don't mean hard on you in an illegal way. That's a separate issue. We don't need to deal with that, but just hard on you in terms of, some of it's fair. They expect you to be prepared. They expect you to know your stuff. Sometimes they don't know. That's why you're there. So you have to know, and you have to be able to answer them. So I think being prepared and also listening to yourself and making sure you're presenting the way you want to present is important. I think confidence is big because it can be hard to maybe walk in from the female side to walk into a room full of men. You might be intimidated. You shouldn't be, because you have your job there for a reason, and just go in and own the room. And as long as you've done those other things, you're prepared, you're ready, you know your stuff, you'll be fine. And if you're not fine, that's not on you because you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. So it's that kind of stuff that we probably honestly know, but maybe we need reminding. And so it's good to be reminded of those things. The other thing, and then I'll stop talking because you're going to turn into a pumpkin, is I've been really bad about work-life balance, and I'm getting better, but making sure you're taking time for true time off for family and for friends and for you is also important, so you don't burn out, because that's not good.
Yeah, that is exactly right. So to recap, lower your voice, be more confident, and get a hobby.
Yeah, exactly. That was nicely concise.
Okay. Yeah, no, well, I think it would be helpful. Well, it was really nice to meet you, Beth. Thank you so much for doing this. Really appreciate you sharing your insight and your wisdom and your story. And thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jeff. It was great to be here. And thank you to Lawyer Interviews for having me as well.
Very cool.